I also want to share in case you were on the call yesterday, there aren't a lot of changes in what I'm talking about today on today's call. So you could feel free to just check out the recording. The biggest thing is just a very brief statement about Dr. Salmon's announcement yesterday. Mr. Nelson, is our waiting room clear there? You just give me a thumbs up. That's fine if it is. All right, perfect. So we are going to start. Thank you all for joining today. I am going to share my screen with you so that you can see the presentation that I have here. If you have called in, I will be reading everything that's on the slides, and also this will be posted on YouTube later today after the meeting is over and I have time to process it, but so it would be also available there. So at this time, I'm going to share my screen. And you should see my presentation. So again, thank you for joining us for this parent meeting. Again, a reminder to everyone that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted online later. And that's just so you're aware of that. If you don't want to have your picture seen there, you can turn off your camera always. So I want to tell you that today what we're going to talk about very briefly is what information I know after Dr. Salmon's announcement yesterday that schools will be closed for the remainder of the school year. Share some information again about Chromebook distribution. Again, repeat some stuff that we talked about with AP exams. Share information about how we're closing out incomplete grades at the end of the third marking period, what we know about fourth marking period grading at this time, and answer some of the questions that were submitted previously. So the first piece is that the big news of the day, or the big news of yesterday afternoon, is that Dr. Karen Salmon, who's the state superintendent of schools, announced that schools will be closed for the remainder of the year. For MCPS, that means that the last day for students is June 15th, but we will be participating in distance learning through that day. So since that announcement's been made, I've gotten lots of questions from parents, from students, even from staff members about what this means for us in terms of lots of things, what this means for us in terms of graduation, caps and gowns, how we're going to get equipment back, how we're going to distribute the items we have, such as honor cords or seals of biliteracy, and what we're going to do about other typical year-end functions like awards, ceremonies, and those things. So a lot of that is still unknown for us at this point. In terms of graduation, I do want to share that MCPS is working on a centralized approach to that, and that they are supposed to make that announcement this week, so that should come out. In terms of the other items, like the things that might need to be picked up from school, things that students might have ordered, such as a cap and gown or other things, all of that would be on hold until the time that we are able to return to the building and start doing something, even if we had to do kind of a rolling distribution of those. In terms of textbook and Chromebook returns and other items that students might have from school, that's also on hold for right now. My hope is that we'll have a plan for those, but we do still have approximately 6 weeks of instruction left in the school year. So for a lot of those items, students will be needing those through the remainder of the year. And any of those other year-end events, such as award ceremonies that we would have typically had, we have been making our plans just in case for how we might do those virtually. And now that we know that we will need to do those virtually, conduct all of those ceremonies and many other things, such as student government elections or other things that have to happen at the end of the year, we will ramp up and communicate with parents and students about how those are going to happen virtually if possible, or share explicitly that some of those items would occur in the fall when we return to school if we're unable to complete them virtually. Moving on from that, so I just want to share again and come back to this, and I probably will continue to come back to this every week because it is a really important piece here. We have, I mentioned last week, BCC has taken over distribution of Chromebooks for our students. So we are distributing Chromebooks and hotspots every Tuesday between 9 and 3, 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Someone is at the building with those. We do at this time have a good supply of those, so we are able to allow people to walk up and get them, but we do encourage you to pre-arrange by contacting your grade level administrator if you need to pick up a Chromebook or a hotspot. And the reason we're doing that is to make sure that we aren't hit with a sudden deluge of people needing, and then we don't have the supplies that we need. So the more we know in advance, the better we are able to maintain our inventory and be able to meet the needs. Since we're only doing it once a week, we don't want people to have to wait an entire week before they can come back to us and get that device. At the same time, if something happens you wake up on Tuesday morning and your Chromebook's not working, feel free to, if you have the opportunity or able to, come by BCC and see that there's a very good chance that we'll have the equipment that we need to give you. We just want to try to plan for that as much as we possibly can. I also want to share again that MCPS has set up a technical support number for parents and students if they're having trouble with accessing any of their classes or utilizing their Chromebook or with their Wi-Fi. That number is 240-740-7022. And that number, when you call that number, you have the option of leaving a message in English or in Spanish, and then someone from that hotline calls you back. So you're actually not on hold for that. That's how they are handling that process. So it gives you an opportunity to not be sitting there waiting, but you'll get the call back to get the support that you need for that. Again, that number is 240-740-7022. This is another reminder that I talked about last week, but I just want to share again. AP exams begin next Monday, which is May 11th. We do have a significant number of students who have registered for an exam, and because of the changes in it, might choose not to take their exam. And this is just a very important reminder. Every student that registered, even if they are not taking the exam, will receive a link to the exam, and we're asking that you do not click on that link unless you really plan to test. There are two reasons for that. The first is that a score will be generated if you click the link, and that record will go with you. If you're taking other AP exams, it will show that you either didn't complete or scored a 1 on that exam. And the second reason is that that test will actually then be obligated, which is a $98 obligation for the test if you truly do not choose to do it. So we're asking all parents to remind their children, if you're not planning to take an AP exam, do not click on that link to access the exam. Those have all been will be sent out starting next Monday. So some students received incompletes during the third marking period, and that was for a variety of reasons. Either students needed an opportunity to make up work that they might have missed or been unable to turn in while we were still in school, or we were trying to rectify problems with access to technology during the initial time of the school closure. So each school was given quite a bit of latitude in how we handled kind of resolving the incompletes. So at BCC, we've decided that for seniors, we are going to have those incompletes, the change date for those incompletes on May 15th, which is a week from tomorrow. It's not a large number of students, but those students should already know what they need to do from their teachers. The reason that date was chosen is that May 22nd is actually the last day for seniors. That remains as the last day for seniors. So we wanted to have an opportunity to really correct anything that might have fallen through the cracks in that last week while we still had seniors with us, even if it is only with us virtually. By the same token, any underclassmen, those incompletes have to be corrected by May 22nd, which is a week later, but also gives us an opportunity to have time to work with them between that date and the end of school on June 15th. So what happens when a student has an incomplete is really that the teacher and student are coming up with a plan. They're identifying the critical elements that must be completed to changed that incomplete to a passing grade, and they are sharing that plan. So you should be hearing from teachers if you are in that situation with that, and making sure that we're there. So if you know your child received an incomplete and you haven't heard from a teacher, the first step is a conversation with your child to make sure that they've had that conversation with their teacher. But you could also reach out to the teacher to ask what the plan is, if that's been worked out yet, so that you can know how that's going to happen. In terms of fourth marking period grading, MCPS and BCC, we're still working on exactly what that guidance is going to look like to teachers. I just want to give you some general thoughts about that. So 2 weeks ago, when MCPS announced the decision to go to pass or incomplete for the fourth marking period, we decided at BCC that how we would provide teachers the guidance is that we still expect them to provide 1 to 2 meaningful assignments each week, and that the grade should still be entered in the grade book the same way the teacher had been doing it. We also asked teachers to continue to provide feedback to students through their normal practice, whatever that might be. So if that feedback had been provided prior to this announcement through email, through My MCPS Classroom, through Google Classroom, however they had been providing feedback, we asked teachers to continue doing that. This past Sunday, MCPS provided a little bit more information about that. They provided actually a set of 4 criteria to really determine what a pass means for students. So I actually have, for those of you listening on the phone, and on the chart in front of us is actually just a cut from the email that was sent out. So I'm going to read that now, and then really talk about what that might mean for us. So the chart says a student will earn a grade of pass by meeting at least 2 of the following measures. Measure 1 is assignment completion. That means that the student completes assignments on a consistent basis, or at least 50% of assignments. Criteria 2 is content and skills. The student demonstrates understanding of concepts or application of skills on assignments turned in through grades, scales, and other rubrics. Criteria 3 is engagement, that the student consistently engages by attending scheduled teacher check-ins and ongoing communication with the teacher, or other activities such as discussion boards or digital classroom activities. And the 4th criteria is the teacher professional judgment. And that means that the teacher, based on the body of evidence and a holistic view of the student's performance within the context of the circumstances caused by the pandemic, when it benefits the student. So all of those taken together really are meant to provide us as teachers with information and guidance about how we might move forward with really making sure students understand where they are with the work that they are completing during the fourth marking period, and making sure that everyone is on track to earn that pass. That is our goal, and our feedback and the grading that we will be providing to students should be in line with that. We are still working as a school to determine how we want to implement that, because we do think that an important part of what we are providing to students beyond the grade is the feedback that we're giving students on assignments, because that's where the learning happens as we look at that. So we're continuing to look at how we're going to implement that and the guidance that we're going to give to teachers for use of the grade book, etc. So the other important thing about marking period 4 grades is that they will have an impact on the high school transcript. And MCPS sent out the message on Tuesday evening about what those possible impacts look like. There are 4 primary options that the system is looking at. And I'm actually going to play a very brief video for you from Scott Murphy, who is the director of secondary curriculum and programs, so that you can hear what those 4 options are and hear the explanation that he provides for that. So just a moment and I will play that video.
These are extraordinary times in education. These are extraordinary times in education. This is our new normal of how we are doing teaching and learning. And we also need to find this new normal of what grading looks like in our classrooms. The traditional precise way of how we measure grades with points and percentages, in this new normal, we're really beginning to think about it differently, which is why we've developed an initial framework for a pass or incomplete for this marking period, for marking period 4. But A semester grade is really important. A semester grade is what gets factored into a cumulative grade point average, or a GPA, which colleges do look at when students apply to college. The semester grade is the one that's counted on, that is listed on the high school transcript. So the way it works is the marking period 3 grade is combined with the marking period 4 grade to create that semester grade, which again is the one that counts for GPA and is posted on the high school transcript. There are many different ways to get to that semester grade that matters for GPA. One is a universal pass or incomplete. That would be the same letter grade for all students across the district. Colleges have actually said that they understand the extraordinary nature of this pandemic and understand that not all school systems will be giving letter grades this semester. But we've heard a lot of feedback from our community about the importance of letter grades, the importance of GPA, and there are options to actually to calculate a semester grade in different ways that uses a letter grade. One option is to look at where a student was at the end of the 3rd marking period. Take the 3rd marking period grade, a pass for the 4th marking period. That could then lead to a semester letter grade that is where it was as of the end of the 3rd marking period. So another factor to consider is that some students feel like the grade at the end of the 3rd marking period was not necessarily representative of their work throughout the quarter, particularly the way schools closed abruptly and the way that we ended the marking period in a remote learning model. So another option is to give students a bump up from where the grade was at the end of the 3rd marking period. For example, take the letter grade for marking period 3, pass marking period 4, and that results in 1 letter grade higher than where it was at the end of the 3rd marking period. In fact, our current grading system actually does that now, where if you earn an A for the 1st marking period of a semester and a B for the 2nd marking period of a semester, the final semester grade is actually the A for the semester. So it would be in line with some of our current practices. Another way to do it is to have a hybrid, an option, a choice of a pass or incomplete or letter grade, whichever scenario is in the best interest of the student. So these are all the factors to think about in the recommendations that will be going forward to the Board of Education. Everything from a universal pass and complete for all students to all the different ways to calculate a semester grade. Because we have heard from our community that a letter grade is important to our students. It does matter for GPA. So we are looking at all of these different factors and bringing recommendations to our board next week.
So I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Murphy yesterday about that information, and I wanted to share with you that he let me know that MCPS is actually not going to send out a formal survey, but that families are welcome to share their input on this process by sending an email to askmcps@mcpsmd.org. The Board of Education is actually going to make the final decision on this at the May 12th meeting, which is next Tuesday. So if you would like to provide any input or any thoughts on that, you could send an email to that email address. Again, that's askmcps@mcpsmd.org. So finally, we had a few questions from parents that I want to talk about briefly. The first was a question that I think has already been addressed, but is there an update on the status of graduation? And the answer to that is not really. We do believe now that there is no way we'll be able to hold an in-person graduation based on the school closure. But MCPS is expected to announce a decision that will be effective system-wide sometime this week, but I don't have an update on when or how that might look. Another question that I already talked about, just in terms of items being distributed, that is something, again, on advice of school safety and security personnel and even the legal counsel for MCPS. Those items are not essential items, so we should not be setting up any distribution plans at this point. Based on what the governor shared yesterday in his press conference, he is very hopeful that soon we'll be able to relax some of these restrictions that are in place and move into phase 1 of reopening. which might allow us the flexibility to start providing some of these opportunities for drive-through pickup of items, but that'll be a standby because we don't have those answers yet. The last thing, I just want to come back to something I say at the end of every meeting. So if you have questions during this time, it's really important that you reach out to us and try to figure out what's happening. You can always send me an email. You can also reach out to your child's grade level administrator. Just as a reminder, if you have a 12th grader, that's Mr. Levine, an 11th grader, Mr. Nelson, 10th grader, Miss Sutton, 9th grader is Dr. McGarwa. All of those email addresses, along with the email addresses of all of our teachers, are available on the VCC website under the staff directory. But if you're having trouble getting in touch with them, you can always get in touch with me and we'll help direct that. So thank you all very much for attending today. I will be posting this so you have access to the links online. I'll be posting it later today. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day.